Good morning, everyone who's watching us or listening to us. Thank you all for coming. Um, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, these streams are dedicated to delivering fresh insights and actionable advice to empower our business community to grow and thrive. My name is Diana Spinka. I'm the producer of the show. And as always, we have our host, Victor Nichols, with us. Hi, Victor.
All right. Hello. I'm excited about this one.
Today, we're thrilled to welcome a very special guest, James Orsini. James is the president of startup operations at VaynerX, a marketing powerhouse with over 2,000 employees worldwide, if I'm correct here.
Correct.
James, thank you a lot for joining us today. Could you please tell me why you wanted to talk specifically about leadership?
I think the essence of leadership is influence, and we're working hard to make sure that we're helping to develop well-rounded leaders who are empathetic, caring, show gratitude for their employees and their clients. So I think it's really an important topic, and quite frankly, we've been let down by leaders, in the recent press. I mean, whether it's corporate leaders, spiritual leaders, government leaders, people are skeptical. So standing up good leadership is important for us.
I came across some statistics suggesting that the pandemic has kind of like softened people in a way that they're seeking more like flexibility, remote work options, and they actually want work less, live more. Mm-hmm. Do you think managing teams has become more challenging after pandemic?
Absolutely. For me, the inability to observe my employees in a work environment has hampered my ability to lead, because we're in a service sector company, so our as they say, our assets go down the elevator at night. We hope they come back tomorrow, right? So that's how it works in most service sector companies. But I used to be able to visually see if somebody was frustrated, or why are they leaving at 9 p.m. or why are they getting in at 11 a.m. Those kind of things I was able to address and see. Sometimes it was personal stuff that was causing that, but I became aware of it, a little more sympathetic and empathetic to it. And sometimes it was simply just there wasn't enough work to keep them busy. We had to address that. So there's certainly a loss of visibility from a leadership position.
Yeah.
And do you see any changes in your team?
I've noticed it as well. I mean, for me, it was an interesting transition, because obviously I've been doing it kind of evolved throughout my career. But having a place where people were there, like you were saying, James, and they're working and they're doing things, you can see them. They were doing the typesetting. This is when I was producing stuff, right? They're doing the typesetting, they're doing the artwork, they're doing the things. I can interact with them. Now that they're in various disparate locations, it's harder for me, especially because of the art piece of what we do, design piece and things like that. Some of those things, you can't have those interactions because you're off doing something else. They're off doing something else. They can't ask that quick question because you're not available or they're not available. And I'm finding it that the lead times are growing, in getting certain things done, especially because I'm working on magazines, and I'm finding that information that's coming in from the client, information that has to be passed on to them. If we were in an office situation, it would be easier, quicker, and we would be able to get to the problem faster. So
yeah, agreed.
Kind of we're bleeding time and money there. So you have to figure that into your pricing. You have to figure that into everything you're doing, because, like you said, we're leading businesses, but they have to be profitable.
Yeah, I think what the pandemic proved to us is that work can be done remotely. So check that box. We always wondered, could that happen? And are you able to? And the answer is yes. I don't believe it's made us more efficient. It's given us perhaps a better lifestyle. Today, this is an hour and a half commute for me to get in, and when I work from home, it's not an hour and a half. So it's an extra 3 hours a day,
right,
in my health bank, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's an interesting balance.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this change of work-life balance and remote work, desires for people, do you think it's only due to pandemic, or it also has to do something with generation, like with new generation that comes to a workplace?
The whole work-life balance is a concept that I don't know if it even exists outside this country. I was in Italy really, and realizing that everybody who was servicing me in what would be deemed in the U.S. as lower ranking jobs, the guy on the train collecting my ticket, the waiter at the at the restaurant, they were all smiling. And I asked him, I'm like, boy, why, you guys are working and happy. And he said, sir, or signore, right? He said, in America, you fight for work-life balance. In Italy, work is life. So it was just this sort of seamless transaction. They didn't see it as two different things. Like I'm battling against this thing so I can get that thing. It was really an interesting observation.
It's an absolutely an interesting observation. And I can't believe you said it today of all days, because I just got back from a trip myself. I was in Jamaica, and the same thing. These people, many of these people who don't have much, and I say they don't have much by our standards.
By our standard,
much,
right?
Okay, because that's a relative thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But they're happy. They're singing. You talk to them. They say hi to you on the street. The bus drivers, all of them, they say, hey, we're having a great time. It's a sunny day. I'm by the ocean.
Yeah, exactly.
They just look at it as all of it is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So what can you do as a leader to make sure that your team still gets the work done and being efficient and everything, but still, be happy, actually?
Well, we have regular sort of stand-up check-ins. I don't know if you realize, but the meeting default times in the VaynerVerse or VaynerX is 15 minutes. So all of our meetings default to, if you want more than 15 minutes, you have to make a change in your calendar to actually program that. So we check in regularly and often. And what 15-minute meetings do is allow you to get to the point, and not fill up dead air. If I gave you an hour, you would take an hour to say what you need to say. If I gave you 15 minutes, you'd spit it out pretty quick. So that was something that I learned by coming to work for Gary. In fact, my interview was 15 minutes. I had never had a 15-minute meeting, so I left not knowing really kind of where I stood. Until I got a call from his brother saying, hey, good news, he likes you. And I was like, oh, that's great to hear, this quick finger on the pulse allows you to sort of move through the day and touch more people. Mm-hmm. If you're doing the 15-minute check-ins.
Okay. Yeah, that's well, we have Alicia who says, I agree with the short meetings. Yeah, you're probably maybe someone who works with you, or
it could be.
Yeah.
Well, meetings too, James. I have a question. Does it work with clients too?
Yeah, no, it's clients as well. I mean, we're trying to get them on this cadence of
I love this.
Using your time efficiently, right? Then you don't have to fight for a balance if you're not being inefficient with your time. Right. We even lean on something called the Eisenhower matrix, which helps us separate important from urgent. Right. So rather than just a stream of tasks that need to be done, if we can prioritize them into quadrants of, important versus urgent, and some are urgent and important, and those are the things you got to get to right now. Right. Yeah. And some are neither urgent nor important, and that's kind of a nice to have. So if you get around to it, you'll do that when you can. So all these things to help us use our time more efficiently are what we're applying.
I love that.
Yeah, I actually felt a lot of times that first 20 minutes, on the meetings, first 20 minutes you talk about the weather, how everybody was and like families and pets and stuff. And then you're like, you leave the meeting an hour later and you're like, well, I kind of wasted, like at least 40 minutes of my life.
Exactly. Yeah. And like if you're on a Zoom call or, or a Google Meet or Hangout, if you're a minute or two late, you're getting a text message like, "Hey, we're on the bridge now. We're waiting for you." Right? That doesn't happen in real life meetings. You kind of Neanderthal amongst yourselves. You talk a bit, and you wait for somebody to stroll in, with their coffee.
There's that warm up time.
6 minutes into the meeting, so you could really bring more effective meetings in this kind of environment.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I also had a personal question to you. How has your leadership style personally evolved over the years? Because you have an impressive career and you worked at so many different companies, and I'm so sure that you have some shifts in your personal leadership style. Can you tell me a little more?
Yeah, the interesting thing is, I believe I became a leader because people choose to follow, as opposed to this title has made me a leader. My titles are all over the place. This one, president of startup operations. I started here as a chief integration officer. They're meaningless, amorphous titles that allow me, to just play in all different kind of environments. So it's really less about that and more. When you're foisted into a situation, I don't know how I became the head usher of my church for 10 years. I was a leader that people chose to follow. I didn't necessarily raise my hand and say, "Hey, let me watch over these 20 guys and take care of their scheduling and stuff like that." So, a lot of it is that, and there's no substitute for wisdom and experience. So, you just keep learning over time. I think the most interesting thing for me in this environment was originally stepping in and being a 50-plus-year-old guy in an environment of 450 millennials when I started here 10 years ago, and allowing myself to learn from them, not just be the mentor who pushes down, but allow this reverse sort of 360 mentoring where I spend time listening to them and learning from them, what's important to them, versus what's the, industry standards says is important. Hey, we all put away a 401k and, for your retirement. And these guys are like, listen, I'm eating ramen because I'm covered with school debt. You don't have anything that helps us solve school debt. That's my immediate need. Forget about putting away $100 for when I retire. I'm trying to feed myself now. So just those things and being able to listen to the needs, makes you a better leader.
That's a huge one right there. The ability to listen. And then of course, once you listen, to be able to utilize that information. Okay. Because there are people who will listen, but there's no follow through or absorption of that information.
Right. Right.
That's the second half of it.
Yeah. And that's a great point, Vic, because that has been one of the things that I found that people like most about me. That is, I don't necessarily have a to-do list. If you're asking me to do something, and this because you work with me,
I've lived it.
But before the call is hung up, I am sending the email that I told you I was going to send. You know what I mean? So it's already in your inbox, and we're still talking. Yeah. So that's been good, and that's worked really well for me. Especially now that I'm getting older, I forget stuff, right? So let me just deal with it right this second.
Yeah. Deal with it now. I don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
Well, I love the thing that you said about millennials, because I'm a millennial, right? And I have a few generations, before me, and already a few generations, after me. And I also work with different people. I don't see like a big change, to be honest, like with me, let's say in younger people. But I see a discussion on the internet that, people say that Gen Z is like lazy and they don't want to work hard, and people complain and they don't know how to motivate them. I know that you work a lot with like new generations. How do you find this connection? How do you find, like, I don't know, motivation, or like how do you manage or working with those people?
Well, I find that, and I have it in my own household, right? I have a son who's 28. I have a daughter who's 26. I have another one who's 23. So I'm observing it now. And what I've learned is, if your passion becomes your profession, it is lights out. If you're digging what you're doing, you're willing to stay till 10 o'clock at night and doing stuff. You know what I mean? If you're unhappy in your role, less than fulfilled, now, you're moaning a little bit. You're really seeking more money, more for a battle pay kind of initiative, rather than anything more than that. And no matter what the number is, it will really never be enough if you're not happy. So I think, finding your happiness. One of my daughters has been in her position for 5 years, and her friends have moved around a lot. They're still searching. They may have had 5 jobs in the one time that she's been anchored in the one, because they haven't found the passion yet. They're paying the rent. So that's the beauty of internships. Like, I tell people who are interning, like, it's okay if you hate your job. That's what an internship is. Now do a different internship, next summer. And maybe you'll find something that you do like. I had a niece that did that, thought she was going to be an accountant. Was going to do an internship there, couldn't pass a particular intermediate accounting. Then, hey, I'm going to be in fashion. Did an internship in fashion, realized that's a really hard job. When you're behind the scenes on the runway, it's pretty cool if you're Cindy Crawford, but if you're not, it's really tough. And then landed in human resources, and was much happier in playing that role.
Right. It is about the search, and of course, the serial entrepreneur has that same kind of seed.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
There's opportunity, and you say, you can see opportunity. Man, I see opportunity every day. But I also, as I've gotten older, realize that I cannot move on those opportunities. Right.
Well, that's just it. In my experience with working with entrepreneurs, and now I've done this twice in my career. Once as the president of the Sasha Group, where I worked with a lot of founders and entrepreneurs, and now as helping to stand up this Vive leadership offering. A lot of the class attendants are founders, entrepreneurs, and that kind of stuff. There, it's about focus, because there's no shortage of ideas. The shortage is in the execution of the ideas, right? So they got a new idea every day.
Oh my God! Yeah. Are you kidding? I go to bed, I have an idea. I get up.
I got an idea. It was so funny when I was president of Cedo Mobile. I had to meet with the largest shareholder, who happened to be the founder's ex-wife. So she got all the stock in a divorce settlement. Oh, wow. And she said to me, you're going to be exactly what he needs. He's an inventor by trade, at 26 patents to his name. He said, but you can't send him to go get milk, because when he opens the refrigerator door, he's going to say, why is the hinge made that way? And then go home, he's going to redesign the hinge, and we're not going to have any milk. So, and that's the essence of a founder and an entrepreneur. There's no shortage of thought.
None. Which is something leaders have to deal with too, because what you're doing is helping those entrepreneurs become better leaders, but also understand what they need to do in order to, kind of, like you say, focus, but like we used my father's, buckle down. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's really been, in this stage of my career now, I'm helping leaders become better leaders. Yeah. Based on experience, and, hey, been at this thing for 40 years. Not I've been a leader for 40 years, but I've been at this thing for 40 years. I've been a leader for probably 30 of them. Right. So let me help you such as I have, I give to you, kind of thing. Like, let me help you be a better leader if you use these, these tools.
Did you have mentors who were like, now you're teaching other people, but did you have mentors?
Yeah, a really great story. A guy by the name of Marty Franken, who I worked for at KPMG, who then years later called me when he got to Saatchi. I was at Goldman Sachs at the time. And he said, the Saatchi brothers just bought a single public relations firm. They're going to build a worldwide company. And if you leave Goldman Sachs, someday you'll be the CFO of that worldwide company. And I took him up on that. And we did, within 5 years, we built the 5th largest public relations firm in the world. And I was a global CFO before I was 30, overseeing 30 offices in 26 countries. And he was my mentor. Taught me about international. I'd never been on an international plane or anything like that. And then, by years later, I flew to Concord 8 times, but he was always a good man. And he would give me sound advice, even family advice. James, vacation with your family. This is before I was married. Vacation with your family. They'll never remember the big screen television or the leather couch. They'll remember every vacation you've been on, big chunks of wisdom like that I have, instilled in my family. So 2 years ago, my family got to meet that mentor. And it was just so great because they had heard so much about him, and he's one of several that I had, but, heard so much about him, and then to have, brought him into my children, who were hammering him with different questions, about me, about my past, and that kind of stuff.
You're like, this is like a treasure here.
Yeah, and we remained friends. I'm in touch with every boss I've ever had in a 40-year career. Just spoke with my ex-boss from Goldman Sachs that haven't worked there since 1988, 89. I think was my last year there. Bosses from Saatchi and Saatchi. I work regularly with my boss from Interbrand. So yeah, it's been quite a ride. There's been a lot of business mentors that I had in my life. I mean, the greatest example I've had in my life was actually my father. But he wasn't in the business world. 6th grade education, owned his own plumbing business. But would always whistle when he went to work. Whistle going in, whistle coming home. I never remember wanting for anything. And now I know how much money I make and how hard it is to get things done. I'm like, I don't know how we ever did that, back in the day. But he was a great example and a mentor as well.
It sounds to me that your mentors, I mean, the examples that you gave us, you became very close. Do you think it's a good idea, like, to become with your team members, to be very close and mentor them in like personal life, kind of like in work life, or it's better to have like boundaries?
Well, let's go back to Italy. If you look at work as life, it's one thing. People ask me often, how do you get done as much as you get done? Because I am the same person in all the environments. I'm the same guy at church. I'm the same guy in my house. I'm the same guy at the office. I'm not changing masks. And this is James, the executive. This is James, the father. This is James.
Right.
Same dude. So, and now with social media, my world is on display, right? So if you want to know about my family, you're going to go to Instagram. If you want to know about my business, you're going to stay on LinkedIn. If you want to know about my passions, you're going to follow me on Twitter or X. That even makes it, more of an open book. So a lot of advice I give is life advice and not necessarily work advice. These people that work here, they know much, much more than me about social media, than I'll ever know. So I'm not going to give them advice on how to do a media placement ad. But I give them advice on how to work a procurement department to get the best deal. I can give them advice on how to make sure the client is retained over a period of years. I can give them advice on how to balance their workload through the Eisenhower matrix so they can actually go home on the weekend and watch their kid's soccer game. You know, those are the kind of things that I do.
Vic, you're taking notes?
Yeah, I am. Of course, because here's one of the key things. Even though I've been in business for a long time, you know, since 1981, every time I have a conversation, well, certainly every time I have a conversation with James, I learn something. Like, I learned something from the person over at Starbucks who, you know, gives me my, you know, my order because I get into conversation. Somebody's going to know things that I don't know. It doesn't matter who they are. I don't care what level of life they are. I don't care what they do for a living, because that's what you do for a living. But there's always something to learn. So when I hear something, I like to either write it down, because as James alluded to, I am getting older and I don't want to forget it. So yes, I am taking notes.
Well, I guess that's something that makes a good leader, you know, being able to take advices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do have a question for you. In your opinion, James, and I know this is kind of a broad question, but if you had to answer it concisely, where would be the best place that you would think if somebody's looking for leadership information, like information on leadership? What book might you recommend? What videos, what might you say you should check out first? You know?
Yeah, well, there's several books I like. You know, obviously Gary's book on 12 and a half, which is all about the soft skills of leadership, kindness, empathy, gratitude, very important. So that's one that I recommend. I also like 6 Fundamentals of Success by Stuart Levine, who was the former CEO of Dale Carnegie. So, you know, there's a couple. He wrote a sequel to that called Cut to the Chase, which is about work-life balance in that one. So, you know, I think there are a few books to, you know, but you should be, you know, following podcasts of people that
I do that too. Yeah, I mean, because like I do watch the podcasts and kind of soak up that information, because so things are happening. People think things happen in a linear way. They happen concurrently. Okay. They're happening at the same time. There's no way for you to be focused on these things all at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Podcasts help. Like when I'm in the car, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. You know, that kind of thing. But thanks. I just wanted to, you know, make sure that we mentioned that on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
You probably have to deal, maybe not, with some conflicts in your team. Do you have like go-to strategy for resolving them?
Yeah, you know, at VaynerX here, we talk about being the bigger person, taking the high road, willing to admit you're wrong. You know, this is a fearless company operating in an industry of fear. The industry here is this the day the client fires us? That's how they walk about. So they're very insecure. They're very worried about, you know, this is my work. Don't look at it. But we don't have that here in the hallways of VaynerX. It's a very collaborative environment. We share ideas. People feel protected. Look, it's not like we don't have layoffs and things like that. We do, because we're a commercial business in for profitability. But generally speaking, you know, it's not an environment of screaming and yelling and demanding. You know, it's an environment of trusting and encouraging and rewarding.
More businesses need to run that way.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we'd all be happier.
Exactly. Yeah, well, I think I blame a lot of that on Wall Street, you know, in that very myopic, what'd you do for me this quarter? You know, you're rewarded. So let me get this straight. I'm rewarded if I make earnings by a penny, and I'm punished by if I miss earnings by a penny. Who's the more honest guy? The guy who always makes it by the penny, or the guy who misses it by a penny? Right. I mean, seriously. Yeah. So it was one of my problems with publicly traded companies.
Not just yours.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We've seen lots of other people have got problems with it too.
Exactly.
Do you have maybe a daily habit or a practice that you believe a leader can make a leader more effective?
For me, it's I open my day with prayer, because I don't answer to a man, I answer to a higher God. So and I draw my strength from that spiritual infusion, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Help give me the wisdom of Solomon, give me the favor of David. Help me make decisions that are going to unfold today. So that's just me personally.
Yeah.
But I think part of what we're doing in the Vive Leadership is we're talking about meditation and breathing exercises and things that help you first find your way into the zone before you embark on the heavy lift of your daily work life. So however you find that, however spiritually you connect with that. Some people do a run in the morning, to just clear their head and get going. So I think you got to find which one is right for you.
I think that's so awesome that you're talking about, because Deanna, I know, has a soft spot for the whole breathing part of it. And, and I meditate.
Yeah.
And that really, truly, I mean, it sounds, cliche and all, but it actually did change my life in many ways.
Absolutely. And that's what we've heard from people. Like part of the Vive program is we bring in breathing experts. We had the founder of Therabody in the other day. We're going to have Deepak Chopra on in the coming weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, I spoke with a woman who's all about sleep wellness, and this is the temperature you should be sleeping in. These are the kind of lights that you should be using during the course of the day.
Mm-hmm.
We have nutritional experts. Spent a lot of time with a award-winning plant-based chef.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't believe that I can get full on just plant-based food. Like,
Like, give me,
yeah. I mean, it looked tremendous. It tasted just as good. And I thought for sure I was going to be hungry in 15 minutes, and I just wasn't. Like, so just being able to explore some of these things and being open to something new, I think is important.
Bingo. Being
So
open.
how does the program work? Is it like a subscription type or?
You talk about the Vive Leadership Program?
Yes.
Yeah. So it is a 4-month acceleration program to move our leaders forward. It's highly personalized. The classes are anywhere between 8 and 12. Our first class was 10. The second class was 12. It's for successful entrepreneurs and Fortune 500 C-suite people. We cross-pollinate them into the mix. We kick off with a 2-day live event here in New York City. They actually get to spend some time and have a dinner with Gary during that time as well. We go deep on how they got to who they are today. Then it's a series of 16 weeks of virtual speakers. It could be somebody from Shark Tank, like Damon John. You heard me mention some of the other ones. We had Bobby Brown on as a founder. We pull from the what we call the VaynerVerse here. So we have experts speaking on e-commerce and organic social and paid media, things like that. It culminates in a growth summit in Santa Fe. We've been going to the one in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's called MEA, owned by Chip Connolly, the Modern Elder Academy, it's called, where it's about 60% wellness and 40% business. And then they graduate, and if they decide to stay on in some capacity, we have what's called an Elevate program, where they get to stay in the mix. If there's a particular event that's going on, last week was Art Basel. We had 5 Vivers go down there and get into some of the pop-up activations that were there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, our goal is to just, we work backwards from what it is that they're trying to achieve. They have access to an on-staff PhD, so they have executive coaching. They have a always-on concierge type service where they can call Andre Sullivan, who's the president of Vive, or myself, to help them gain access and entree to either our personal networks or the Vayner network. They're finding some real value in doing that.
There's a lot of value.
I'm just gonna say,
yes, there is.
I'm just gonna say.
I mean, it's like
real value. There's a major problem with them, not with the program.
Yeah, I mean, they probably walk out like different people from that program.
And that's exactly what they say. They are a changed person. I mean, we've been really fortunate that the testimonials have been spectacular for both the first and the second class. The measurable ROI. So going back and applying what they've learned into their business. I had one woman from North Carolina who said that the 2 months following the Vive program were the 2 most successful months of her business. She's been in business more than a decade. So, applying the learnings are more important, are important as well.
Yeah. And it becomes beyond just an invest. It becomes the investment in cost, whatever that is negligible.
Yeah.
Right. It's you because you can keep using that and keep using that and keep using that to grow your businesses.
Exactly.
There's a lot of personal that comes out.
Yeah, and even the weekly sessions, the 1 hour sessions or 2 hour deep dives, depending, where we'll go deep on negotiation skills training, we'll go deep on personal branding on LinkedIn, things like that. It's not like a talking head. Okay, it's live. They're on the other side of the screen. You get to a Q&A. So, if you're speaking to a Matt Higgins or a Damon John, it's like you're on Shark Tank. Like, we're going to spotlight you. You're going to come up on the screen and you're going to ask your question.
You're going to ask your question and you're going to get and you're going to get the answers. Right.
Yeah, and careful what you ask.
Because you might. Well, sometimes you might.
Right.
But
exactly.
That's part of it too. Not liking the answers is important as liking the answers.
Well, the president of Vive, Andrea, says it's more like we give you a gentle hug and a kick in the tush at the same time.
Right. And some people only need that, and some people need that plus.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, the networking piece alone is, I guess, it's worth everything.
Yeah, we're helping people get connected. Some want to get on a paid speaking circuit. Some want to learn how to write a book. Then we have business stuff. We had one guy who was asking us, we know anybody who could help him bring his franchise to Europe? Do you know anybody who can help, secure a bridge loan for some damaged hotel hospitality property that they own? So, they're leaning into us to connect them with people who are in our networks.
And that's probably one of the biggest drivers, which, we emphasize when we talk, no matter who we're talking to, is how important the network is, how important relationships are.
Mm-hmm.
And the third piece is being able to make the connection within those relationships.
Yeah, exactly.
Because sometimes there's a need and there's somebody, but you got to be able to put those two things together in a way that's going to be beneficial.
Exactly.
I emphasize that so much because it's not just, hey, you should know this person. No, it's got to be a lot more than that.
No, it's it moves beyond introduction and into expectation.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm making this connection, I am expecting you to deliver on this. You know what I mean? Like, this is really, and I know even from Vic can speak firsthand because I use him often in my network. But, and if you don't, I know you're going to go, you're a little further down the network food chain,
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because like I said, this is not just, you should talk to this person. This is, hey, Vic, I need you to meet with this person. Give them 15 minutes of your time.
Period. Exactly. Back to how we started this conversation.
Exactly.
Any longer than that?
Exactly. Exactly.
For sure. And that's how it should be done. But you have to have those relationships. And like you said, there are also stratas of relationships that one has.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you rise to the top, which are in the middle, which and that's okay, because that's the way life flows.
Yes.
But you've got to be able to see where those connections are, because sometimes I'll make a connection and the person, how did you know?
Yeah.
I said, because I paid attention to what they said and I paid attention to what you said.
Right. Right. And I'm not afraid to say, listen, I'm not going to make that introduction. And why? I said, because I used that shit last week for somebody else.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I've called that person already, and he's already leaning in on something. I don't feel comfortable calling again. I mean, I value people's time. It's nothing more valuable than time right now. And I put a great value on it. I don't like wasting people's time. And in fact, in the earlier days of working here with Gary, part of my role was to deflect. Everybody wants time with Gary. Everybody. Right. So like he can't meet with everybody. So, how do I move some pieces? I just had somebody yesterday call me up about an interesting product, and I met Gary at a show and can't get to him now. And I'm like, well, tell me about the product. And I said, well, you belong with the president of VaynerX, so let me connect you with him. Now that guy's not getting to Gary, but the president of VaynerX was interested in what he had to say.
And you know what? And that's the key, though. He doesn't have to get to Gary.
Didn't have to get to Gary, but everybody comes in asking for Gary.
Yeah. You don't have to get
right?
Right.
So
that's the other key, is to know also what the path is.
Exactly. Well, it was so funny when I was chief operating officer here, people would ask me, okay, so who's your admin? I said, I don't have an admin. Okay, so who reports to you? I said, nobody reports to me. They said, well, how do you get anything done? I said, because I take the time to learn what 600 people do. And then I just connect the dots when somebody calls. Like, you're going to talk to this person now and they're going to help you out.
Yep.
So, that's also part of the role is, understanding what it is that the people that work for you actually do.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I've lived it, so I can be a living, breathing testimonial, because you've done that for me many times, where you say, Vic, yeah, this is the person you
need.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it works out.
Even when you ask to speak to Gary.
Yeah.
I said, even when you asked to speak to Gary, I'm like, yeah, all right, yeah, talk to this guy.
Exactly. Fortunately, I've had time to spend with Gary, so that was nice. But yes, you're absolutely right. Called to speak to Gary. Here, this is the guy. And you know what? I get further doing that anyway.
Yeah.
Because even if
absolutely.
The fact of the matter is, even if I spoke to Gary, he'd tell me the same thing.
Yeah.
He would say, no, Vic, this is the guy you need to speak to. So.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So for someone stepping into their first leadership role, what's the one piece of advice you wish someone had told you when you started?
Make sure you have a really good mentor. Make sure you have somebody that you could bounce. Look, leadership is lonely. It's a hard and lonely job. Right? Gary just put out a piece of content yesterday. It said being a number two is great. The greatest job in the company is being a number two. It's really hard to be the number one. And I found that even with myself, when I was the CEO of a small publicly traded mobile media company, after that job ended, I read a book called Consigliere, Leading from the Shadows. And it was about being a great number two. It was about a number one who stepped down to be a number two, and how great his life was as the number two. And when I read that, I was like, you know what? That's kind of who I am. I've always been a great sort of, number two to people. I'm comfortable in that role. So, often now people come to me and say, hey, I think I want to hire a chief operating officer. What should I be looking for? And I have maybe 4 or 5 different articles that I share with them in it, talking about this is the role that they should play and how you should integrate them into the company and that kind of stuff. So I think it's important to find a mentor in or out. So it's kind of better to have it in the hallways, but if you can't, then even outside the hallways, and just somebody you could bounce some ideas off of.
That's, I think if anybody listening and is going to listen, please get that piece of information. If that's the one thing you get out of this conversation, that's a pearl.
Yeah.
Okay, that is a pearl.
Yeah. Well, it was so wonderful talking to you this morning. Thank you, everyone, for commenting. We saw all of your comments. It was just like such an interesting conversation. I couldn't interrupt James and Vic.
But see, the other thing too about that is that we can go back and we can, if there were questions or things, we can answer.
Great. Yeah, and if you need me to circle back on anything, just let me know.
You are the man. I know how busy you are. I thank you so much, my wonderful friend, for taking the time this morning to do this, because I know this is going to be helpful for a long time for a lot of people.
I hope your audience gets some value from it. But it was great sharing, and thanks so much for having me on the live stream.
Thank you, my friend, and we're gonna be doing more in the future.
Great.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.